Hi, everybody. I'm Linda Brubaker, and this is Career Search Lunch and Learn. One of the things we do here is a lot of networking and support. So I want to make sure that everybody is including their information in the chat. One of the things we do is we also have a private group, and I'll put that information into the chat as well, where I will add the chat as well as a summary of the call. And it's a place where we can not only do additional networking, but we can ask each other questions. We can provide support, share ideas, share jobs, share articles that you've read that you think are important for people to do. And Miriam, I don't know whether or not you're here yet, but she shared one yesterday that was really good about AI and networking, AI interviews. And we'll probably do actually a whole session on that, different kinds of interviews formats coming up in June. In any event, I'm Linda Brubaker. I am a career coach. I come to this work with over 20 years of experience in HR. As an HR recruiter, a business partner, a hiring manager, I've managed recruiters and I've been a headhunter too. And I've been a dedicated career coach now for the past 8 years. One of the reasons that I mention that is that I want to tell you that what the information and advice you're getting is coming from not just our own ideas, it's coming from our research, it's coming from our experience. And what we're doing is we're sharing the best of what we know, what we're gaining from all of our own contacts and our research to help you succeed. We know you don't want to be here, but we're here to help you move on to find that next forever role. As I mentioned, I do this as a labor of love. This is my way of giving back. It's actually one of the reasons I got into career transitions coaching, was to be able to give back in that way. So here's my one and only sales pitch. I put my information into the chat. For those of you who have not yet worked with me, and I see several of you who have, I support the work that I do here by doing that private coaching. Happy to work with each and every one of you in any way that you can. But in addition, I'm happy just to have a quick chat. No charge, just let's talk and see where you are and what challenges you're facing and where we can go. And today's session is actually all about those challenges. So I'm going to turn it over right now to Sue Griffey and let her introduce herself as well, because Sue's here not only to support me, but to support you. She's another of those resources that we love to have.
Thank you, Linda. And yes, you're seeing my camera blink on and off, and we don't know the reason, and I couldn't get on another camera fast enough. So I'm going to go off camera in a minute, but I will be here. Thanks for letting me be here, Linda, and all of you. I know this isn't where you want to be, but as Linda was talking about, we take our work seriously. We bring forward our experiences, but you're not hearing advice from 5 or 6 years ago when both of us were in different kinds of work with the same kinds of populations like you all. What we do is we learn from you, we learn from our friends. Linda has become a very good friend when we first met professionally a couple of years ago. So we learn, keep track of state of the art. And that was brought home to me an hour and a half ago when I ran a CV resume update co-working session. People who'd taken my course 3 years ago, 2 years ago, are still asking questions and saying, I don't know how to do this. And it turns out the way of the work world has changed dramatically, especially in the last year. So just be wise that just be aware that you're actually wise being here, because you're learning the state of the art every week as it changes. And we take what we learn from all of you and are able to also reinforce what you all are seeing in those horrible AI interviews and all of that. Mostly, you know me for bringing the pom-poms. If you've seen me before, I celebrate big wins, small wins, things you don't think of as wins. And I'm going to turn it back over to Linda and keep an eye on the chat and make sure things go smoothly as well. Thanks, and turning off my video.
Thank you, Sue, and I appreciate that. So Sue's mentioned several things, one of which is we learn from you as much as you're learning from us. The questions that you ask, if we don't know the answers, we'll go out and get them. We'll ask our own networks. We'll build the resources, because as Sue mentioned, these things are constantly changing. And that's one of the benefits of a group like this, is that you've got people like Sue and me and all the rest of you who are out there trying to figure out what's going on, getting those answers, making sure that we're giving you the most current information possible as we learn from one another. Okay. Nice to see so many people here. So as I mentioned, please put your information into the chat so that we can connect with you. I put the information in the chat about our private group as well. What a private group means is that we host it on LinkedIn. You can't find it on LinkedIn. The only way that you can find it is by having the direct link or connecting to me. If you've registered for one of these programs, whether you've attended or not, you are open to joining that group, but you have to ask to join. I normally get people's, when you've asked to join, sorry, I need more coffee, not just to warm my hands, but actually to talk. But what I want to do is tell you that, once you do ask to join that group, I normally will get you in the same day, sometimes even right after this call is over. So please do join us. We're now over 300 people in that group. Actually, I think we may be over 400 people in that group, but it's a great way to share and provide ideas and resources to one another. And that's actually what today's session is all about. It's providing resources and support to one another. This is our first roundtable discussion. I'm hoping it's not going to be the last. What I want to do is be able to let you all share your challenges, and then the rest of us come back on and give ideas and support, and let's brainstorm with you, things that we know that have worked, or things that we've tried that may not, so that we can learn from one another and support one another as we move forward. That said, we're going to start with some very quick wins, okay? So let me talk a little bit about the chat first. Sue mentioned that she's going to be monitoring that for me, and I truly appreciate that. If you have a question, please, in all caps, write the word question, okay? And then put in your question. If you have an idea for an upcoming program, put that in the chat as well, okay? But use the word idea, all in caps. If you have a speaker that you'd like to hear as one of these programs, again, speaker, all in caps, and then put it in, because I go back and monitor the chat. I may not do it live while we're going because I want to be interacting with you all, but I will absolutely monitor it afterwards. And the chat itself goes into our private group later today. Okay, that said, if you have a quick win, we may use it to start turning into some of our brainstorming sessions, but let's do it. Hello, Miriam.
Linda, good morning, and everybody else. So spring is definitely in the air, I can tell you that much. I had a 1 hour life-changing session with Mindy Stern yesterday, who is part of this group. I don't know if she's on the call right now, but it's so important to have someone else look at your collateral materials because they see what you can't see. I'll leave it there. And Mindy's going to be speaking to this group on June 10th, I believe.
No, I'm speaking to her group on June 10th.
Oh, okay. You're speaking to her group. I can't keep it all straight. There's too many things flying fast and furiously. Anyway, sign up. What's in it for them is the topic of the day.
Yep. Very good.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Hi there.
Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. So I got an offer and I accepted it and I started it. So, right, before that, first of all, it takes a village to get a job. So I want my network, this team, and specifically Linda. She's always been a great resource. If you haven't set up one-on-one with her, please do. It really help you. Again, this group has been, I go to many other groups, but this probably is the one I could more relate it and find it very useful. So thank you all. A little bit, if I may, about the job. The it's slightly different than what I have done. I'm a product guy. They are IT services. They're going through transition. My pay is probably about 20% below the market. And they were very straightforward from the beginning about their pay. And somebody said, 20% of something is better than zero. I'm excited. One other thing if I know you said be short, but one other thing I want to share was what I thought would be my weakness actually turned to be my strength. And what I mean by that, they are a service company, I'm a product guy. And during the interview, by the way, the recruiter was extremely professional, it was an internal recruiter, constantly giving me updates about the previous calls, anybody who come to the call, prepared, professional. Um, One of the questions I got was, what's your blind spot? What do you think you need to learn? And I said, I'm not coming from the service. I'm a product guy. And they said, no, that's why we're bringing you in. We are all service guys. We don't want another service guy. We want a product guy to help us to, my new boss said, don't be like us. We want you to come and change us. So, and that was kind of ironic that what I thought is my weakness turns to be my strength. They're bringing me for what I thought is lacking, which, so again, so the moral of the story that don't eliminate, if you see a job, go for it, even though you might not have all the check boxes next to that. So I started this Monday. I'm very excited, and but don't let your guards down. Continue networking, get involved in conversation, and pay it forward. Pay it forward, pay it forward. People help you. Make sure that you help people the same way. So you might see me again coming back to this group once in a while. So
Absolutely. We'd love it. Thank you for sharing all of that. So he mentioned something, though, that was really important that I want to emphasize. It's not just to keep looking at the networking and the support, because those are really important. But what you said about the idea that what you thought was your weakness was really your strength and that you should apply anyway, absolutely true. Turn what you see that weakness as, that thing that you're lacking, into a strength. You come in with the best experience in this area, you're going to use that to help them move forward, building on this. It turns that weakness into the strength. In this case, that product knowledge really helps them because that's something they don't have. In addition, you're saying, I bring this and I'm going to learn this from you. I'm coming in without those preconceived notions. Yes, please.
if I may, when I had a conversation with their CEO, he said, my role is a CTO, Chief Technology Officer. And he said, I hired many CTOs from different industries. Sometimes they do well, sometimes they don't. Why you want to take this job? And the answer that I heard many years ago, I used it this time. And I said, what? If I know everything about the job, why do I want to take that job? But the question for you as a hiring manager, why would you hire somebody who knows everything about the job? Means you are hiring somebody who's not curious, somebody who doesn't want it to learn. And he smiled and said, good answer. So again, just share that. I prepared this like 5 to 10 years ago. I never used it.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you all. And I don't want to monopolize the conversation.
We appreciate it. Okay. Anyone else have an idea or something, a quick one to share? If not, what we're going to do is we're going to move directly into this kind of a roundtable discussion. Now, this is a first for us, so we may modify it as we go along, but I'm hoping that while it's the first, it won't be the last. What we're going to do today is really talk about those things that are working for you and what's not. So if you have an issue, a concern, a challenge, what I'd like you to do is raise your hand. And then after you talk about what your challenge is, if you have a suggestion for the person, if you've tried something along those areas, if you have that same issue and concern, raise your digital hand. Let's get that conversation going. Okay. All right. Sherry, I'm going to put you on the spot because you were the one who raised this suggestion. So let's see what you've got for us.
Okay, thank you, Linda. So I saw a job posting on LinkedIn, and you get the typical over 100 applicants applied. And so I actually scrolled down and looked at it further, and it said that 793 people applied. I'm like, wow. How are you going to compete? You're just not going to compete. And there is somebody who I have been following on LinkedIn talks about doing a boss hunting email, and which I just started doing. Yesterday, I sent out 14 and got one reply. So that's a 7% response rate. She did tell me to go to the ATS. Okay, well, I haven't replied to her yet. I think I'm going to try and start up another conversation with that. I sent out 25 just this morning, and one guy came back to me. He's a VP in marketing. By the way, I'm looking for a job in digital marketing, such as a content manager, content strategy, assistant marketing manager, digital marketing specialist. So he wrote back to me, and he said, I told him, you know, in my boss hunting email, first I complimented him, then I complimented the company, then I said, what type of roles I'm looking for. I gave him 3 of my top accomplishments, and I told him that I'm looking proactively, knowing that he may or may not have a role. And he came back to me and he said, this is a smart move. And then he asked me for some examples of my work, which I am in the process of putting together. So I want to know if anybody else has tried this approach, what their success is on it, or what your thoughts are.
Anybody have any ideas or thoughts or questions for Sherry about this? Raise your digital hand if you do, and we'll add you to the conversation.
No comments?
No, we're getting there. Okay. Jennifer, you raised your hand. Do you have questions about it? Or suggestions?
I had a question. How did you find managers or emails in the first place to send this to?
So, well, okay, there's several ways you can do this. One, there are online tools that you can use. They're not 100% correct. 2, I created my own spreadsheet that's got formulas in it that help me create email addresses.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes if you go to the company's websites and you look for, say, press releases or news or something of that nature, it will show you an email address of an employee there. That would be probably the most logical place to start, because it's going to give you the format in the way that you need to know, where the tools are basically, hit or miss. And same with my spreadsheet, there's hit or miss. So there's multiple ways that you can find somebody's email address.
If I may chime in just for a moment, Jennifer, are you looking for how do you find the email address or how do you find the people?
I guess both.
Okay.
Finding the email address, Sherry is absolutely right. The best way to do that is if you find the email address for one person in that organization, the formatting is absolutely going to be the same. It's more a question of how do you find the right people.
Right.
Yes.
Actually, I can post something on Linda's Lunch and Learn group. If you remember that, you can get that. And it basically explains how to find the people that you want. And then it tells you how to create an email address for that particular company. So I can share that in Linda's Lunch and Learn group. So if you're not a member of that, be sure to join it.
I am. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else for Sherry on this? Okay, so I'm going to add one more thing. So one of the things that's important is that Sherry is doing this basically as networking. There may or may not be a job opening. So the idea of reaching out to people is not a bad thing. But remember, you're doing it as a way of building a network. Some people are going to respond extremely positively, some may not. And that's okay. We're never going to be 100% for anything. So Sherry, in the case where he said, go ahead and go to the ATS, once you've done that and then you want to follow up, go back and say, I have now added my information. Please take a look. And that's the only follow-up you need at that point. Let him go ahead and add that to that conversation. Okay. Because that's what you want to do. Okay. Sue, I can't spotlight you because your camera isn't on. There you go. Sue, you're muted.
Thank
Sue.
you. Thank you. I wanted to give Sherry pom-poms because this is an example of taking control of your side of the convo. That's all you control is what you put out there. But she found a different way to do something. It's not, you're right, Sherry, it's not easy to get emails, but think about other ways you can use these creative approaches without being obnoxious in a nice way. And every time you think about these, you will find different examples from your own history to share. You start learning how to cast things in a different, how to talk about things in a different light. Thanks, Linda, for letting me salute Sherry.
Absolutely. Pam.
I'm curious, Sherry, what did you say in the email if you weren't looking for a specific job and you were just looking to make a connection?
Like I mentioned, I went to their LinkedIn profile.
Right.
I first complimented them on what something on their profile, usually is about their accomplishments. Then I complimented them on, basically the mission statement of the company, what I particularly like about that. Then I will ask, wondering if you want to have a conversation about, someone, joining your team. And then just adding some of my recent, some of my better accomplishments. So basically it's about focusing on them and their company first and then bringing myself to light rather than talking about, I'm looking for a job. Do you have a job? Nobody wants to hear stuff like that.
Right. Right. Cold calling.
But
which is what this feels like to me.
You're complimenting them. If you're complimenting them, you're getting their attention, and it's not all about you. It's more about them and their company. And, and then you mention your accomplishments because in one particular, I can't remember all of my but one point that I said is, I'd like to, take a look at my resume to see how I can contribute to your success. Contribute to your success.
Cool. Thanks.
Laura?
Thanks. Sherry, I'm curious as to what your return on investment has been in this, and from the perspective, like how many emails
I just started
versus how many you got responses.
I did this first in a different type of role that I was looking for back in February, and I got a really good response. And I have since then switched gears looking for, a role in content marketing. And, it was I sent out a small handful last week. I sent out 14 yesterday, one of which person replied, sent out 25 today, just this morning. And one person replied asking to see, examples of my work. So I don't have a return on investment on this. All I can say is I got 7% response rate yesterday, and only 1 in 25 of the ones that I sent today, but that 1 in 25 actually asked for examples of my work. So, applying to a job where it's got almost 800 applicants already, that's not going to get me anywhere.
Okay, so first of all, even though it says online that there are 800 applicants, that's not what it means. What it means is that 800 people have looked at the job, and that may just mean that they pulled up the title and went into it.
I understand that, but even if it's 10% of that, that's still 80 people, and I'm supposed to stand out from 80 people.
Yeah, I guess
I
I'm asking
understand.
the
And that's the idea
question.
is that you want to take every avenue you can in order to make this work for you.
Right.
Don't rule out the application,
I agree. I agree.
okay? Because that really does work. But being that proactive approach, and even if you're using it more as a networking strategy, okay, rather than just, I mean, this cold calling is fantastic. It's a great idea and a great thing to try. And for those of you who do try it, I'd love to hear back in our private group or in another meeting how that's actually worked for you, what your return has been. I actually had one client who used that approach and managed to get a job just from that. They hadn't even thought about the fact that they needed a role like this, and she managed to sell herself in, and doing very well there. So those kinds of things can help, but you need to know enough about the company to make sure that what you're offering them really makes sense.
Right. And that's why I incorporated, I looked at the mission statement of the company and, it's like, okay, is this a place that I want to work? What kind of scores are they getting on Glassdoor? So.
And that's more about you, but it has to be about them too.
Exactly.
Okay, Jennifer.
What do you put in the subject line when you send these emails? Can you give me an example? Because have them even open it.
Put their first name, comma, and then your impressive profile and company.
Okay, I'm going to stop you right there. When I see something like that, to me, that's a sales message and I'm going to delete it.
Okay. But also in marketing, when you have the subject line that has the person's first name in it, and then that this is a proven fact, it's a statistic, you will get anywhere between 29 to 15 to 50% more opens than without a subject line with a subject line that does not have the person's first name in it.
And I wasn't going for the subject line, Sherry. I was going with your impressive email, your impressive profile.
So what would you change the subject line to?
I'm not sure, but that itself, okay, every time I get those are almost always sales calls, and I immediately move them to spam and delete. Many people will.
Okay.
You're going to see those same messages on LinkedIn, okay, and they're almost Autobots right now, and they're terrible. And LinkedIn isn't blocking them yet, but they need to. Okay, so the more of us that report them to LinkedIn, the better off we are. But I would see whether we can brainstorm. Let's see whether we can all brainstorm an idea for a better subject line. Okay, if you want to include the person's name in there, but your impressive, whatever, that personally, and I don't know about anybody else, but personally, that would bother me. That would not be one that I would open. Okay, Sandra, you got your hand up.
Yes, I have decades of sales experience, and commenting on Sherry's approach. And here's what she's doing different. So you're doing the same thing over and over and over again and achieving the same result. At some point, you have to look at changing your strategy, doing something different, and measuring those results, and keep changing, keep investigating, and measuring those new action steps or strategies that you are implementing to change. And this is about the sales process. You always have to adjust to market conditions. And getting on to the subject line, I receive a lot of those emails, and my immediate thought is that it's a bot reaching out to me, and I delete the email. So keep that in mind when you are emailing directly to someone. And getting back to the approach, first you have to get to know, like, and trust the person. Developing that relationship first before you go in for the ask. Find out about the person, the company, do your research, and then go in for the ask. Because if someone were to email me, and I get those emails, I see your hand raised, Sherry, Yes, go ahead.
What was, I'm sorry, I was trying to make notes and I missed what you
Yes.
said. What was it that you said about deleting an email?
If I see an email with my name in it, someone that I have not yet subscribed to, I immediately delete the email because I think it's a bot reaching out to me. So
No.
I just delete it.
I agree, and
And-
I agree with the subject line that also says your impressive profile. Okay.
Yes.
That to
Yes.
me is either bot or it's sales calls. Absolutely, because there's nothing there. One of the things though that I'd like to emphasize that Sandra just mentioned, if you want to have more success with those kinds of emails or those reaching out, the person you're reaching out to is in all likelihood going to be taking a look at your LinkedIn profile too before they even respond, assuming they read your email. And if they do, they want to see whether or not you followed the company. They want to see whether or not you are actually commenting on their posts. They want to see whether or not you are actively engaging with some of their people, because that's going to tell them that you're really serious about this as opposed to a mass marketing email. And that all you've changed is the first couple of lines.
And then the other strategy is if you are really interested in the company, go to the company page and click follow and click the bell for all.
Do that.
And then that activates a message to whoever's managing that company page that you were interested in the company. And even though the company for a particular position, even though there are multiple people who have already applied, apply anyway, because now you get your resume into the company's database. And even if there is no current position, but they are accepting applications, apply with your resume. Just submit your resume because the company is now building its pool of resources, of potential applicants, potential people that they can then screen for. So just remove all these barriers and excuses of why not to do something. Mm-hmm. And particularly on the cold calling, compliment the person, start the conversation, and remove that psychological barrier of the cold calling, because it's about developing the relationship first, because you never know, you may connect with someone and then they may know of someone else in their network who's looking for someone like you, but you have to develop that relationship first. Thank you.
Absolutely. In fact, that's one of the reasons that I highly recommend that we think about this. If we're looking at it from a sales process, you have several different channels that you can use. It is a multi-channel process, but part of it is you truly have to have that relationship built first before you to have somebody there. So just that cold call doesn't get you very far. But if you've already made some of those relationships, if your resume is in their system, if you've told, by the way, one more thing, go to their company page, go to their about section. If the company is large enough, and that means normally if they've got a company page, most of them will have it. If you go to the about section and scroll all the way to the bottom, it says, I'm interested in future opportunities. What that does is for the next 6 months to a year, it tells that company that you are not only interested, but it sends them that ding and it sends them a copy of your profile. And people will go back and take a look when they have those openings. We have found that to be a very useful technique. And it's one thing that a lot of people don't do. But developing those relationships first doesn't have to be long, Sherry, or any of you trying to use this kind of an approach, but you've got to do something first before that direct cold call. Otherwise, no matter how personal you make it, it's going to feel like spam. Yes, I'm sorry.
Linda, this is Charles. Can you repeat where you go to say I'm interested in opportunities for the next 6 months again?
Sure. So you go to the company's page on LinkedIn.
Yep.
Go to their about section. Scroll all the way to the bottom. And at the bottom of the about section, it says interested in future opportunities or something like that.
Yeah, are interested in working with us in the future. Yep.
Yep, click that. That sends a trigger to the HR department. Okay, it's a general one, but they know that you're interested, and we know that that triggers something for the next 6 months. I would go back 6 months later and try it again. So set yourself up that little ding if you're still looking. The other thing that we've learned is that companies are more likely to hire you. Here's that networking piece. Even if you are not actually referred in by somebody, and in many cases that's not going to happen, but the more you're connected with other people from that organization, the more you're commenting on some of those posts and building those relationships, the more likely you are to get that foot in the door. Gee, are really serious about us, because I can tell how many people you're connected to with my company. So make sure you're doing some of those things, but those outreaches there. And I'm sorry, please, your hand has been up for a while. I haven't been avoiding you.
It's okay. Sherry, marketer to marketer, from an email perspective, and I don't really think there's any right way to do this other than, I agree with what everybody has said, which is build a connection first. But outside of that, from a pure marketing perspective, for me, it's 13 years now, especially in digital marketing. And I have led email marketing teams and other marketing vertical teams. I don't really think there's a one size fits all, but what I would recommend are really three things from a mentality perspective when you're writing emails. One, use the technology that exists today. So go to AI tools, prompt it, and say, I'm writing an email to this person with this title role. Send me a list of 5, email subject lines for engagement to ideally get a response, and see what comes back, and see of those 5, is that person's name from an AI tool listed in the subject line? And if no, not that AI is 100% right all the time, but I think that's a telltale sign as to, if these tools aren't putting the first or last name in the email line, in the subject line, then we probably shouldn't do it. So that's one. Two, like if I'm writing an email at a personal level, I think back to the corporate side, right? Like when I was leading email marketing teams, or when I was hands-on keyword creating the emails from a company perspective. As much as you're sending as an individual, which is different, I think the one thing to keep in mind is some people have filtering that they've activated in their email system, right? So, whatever the filtering rules are, some people may automatically send emails to trash, based on certain criteria that they set in their personal emails or in their work emails. So just kind of keeping in mind that it's not you and what you're doing. It could just be either automation, or it could be a filter sort of situation on the other side. And then the other thing I would say is, when you're building that relationship, which I think we've all kind of said is probably the first goal that we should all be focused on. Look at research the history of the company, because I think when you're fully or at least somewhat aware of the current state of the company, you can incorporate your knowledge of the current state of that business in your email, even in 1 or 2 sentences. You don't have to make it long, but I think the other person on the other side may look at that and say, they've really read up on the company. They're not just trying to reach out to me and just get me. They're really sincerely interested in the company, to the level of they've done their own research, and that might be a factor that would allow them to be more inclined to respond back to. I think from a KPI perspective in emails, the email open and close rate and the bounce rate and all that, I mean, as marketers, we look at all those statistics. I don't know how telling that is from a personal, like a Gmail or AOL or, Yahoo email account perspective. I think that's very much more for like the corporate metrics that these teams look for. So just a couple thoughts. I don't think there's any right or wrong way to do it, but I think use of AI, especially today, just as a tool. And again, not that it's right all the time, but something that can help you decrease to what everyone else has said about sales, right? Like if it sounds or reads like a sales email, most people will delete the email. I would too. So just think like marketing and sales, but also think from like the personal psychology side of it. And what can you do to increase the open rate? I think
You're on mute, Linda.
Sorry about that. You want not just the open rate, you want the response rate. Because there's two different things. I can read it or I can open it, but you want me to reply back to you. So I'm going to add one more piece and then I'm going to keep going with other people here. But Sherry, one of the things that I was thinking about, you said that you're talking about their mission statement. Honestly, how many companies actually are concerned about their mission statement? They write it and they're done. I don't want to hear about the mission statement. I want you to do the research on the company and what they're doing. Okay. And comment on that, not the mission statement.
Okay.
Okay. Mission statement is static and written more for shareholders many times than it is for us. So something they're doing, which is another reason to follow them, to comment on what they're doing, it makes it much more relevant and it shows that you're really interested rather than just doing that cursory little piece.
Okay.
Okay. The AI, by the way, Jason, is a great way of getting started, but remember, AI is a tool. Do not use their words. Do not ever use their words. It truly has to be you. The last thing you want is for you to send something that's an AI written piece of material. Number one, we can usually tell, but even if we can't, and I decide to reach out to you and you don't sound the way that you did in that email, it's an automatic turnoff. And almost automatically, I'm done. Okay, so don't do that. Starting point, research, information, ideas, a draft, absolutely. Go ahead for it. But to submit something written by an AI, I'd be very careful. And many companies, by the way, are beginning to use those AI detection tools, certainly in terms of their applicant tracking systems and when you submit those resumes. So do be careful with some of that. But great suggestions. I'm sorry, do you have a suggestion? Okay. Anybody else? Great conversation, by the way. I'm loving this. Anything else for Sherry or on this topic?
I want to know what's working for other people.
In terms of what, Sherry?
Applying for jobs, getting interviews, more so getting interviews.
Okay. So I'm going to remove spotlights from everybody else and we're going to just start over again. Now that's such a broad question though. Okay.
I have a response for that.
I don't know who that is.
It's me, Mike Boniford.
Okay.
I'll just type in the chat area.
Would you like to join us on screen, Mike?
I am. Can you see me?
No, I can't, but I'm looking for you.
Okay.
Is your digital hand up?
I can.
Because sometimes that just brings you to the forefront of where I'm looking.
Right. Yeah.
It's in the upper right-hand corner on my screen.
I found you.
Sorry. Okay. Sorry.
That's okay. Go ahead.
I read through each and every posting very carefully and make sure it's a good fit. And I only apply for those. And I also research the company and make sure it's a good employer. And from that, I was able to achieve a very small percentage of responses, but I do get a periodic response. In fact, I just had one the other day, and I have a phone interview scheduled or Teams interview scheduled for next week on Friday.
Fantastic.
It's a lot of grinding, it's a lot of work, but it's worth it.
It is absolutely worth it. And when you're applying for the job, if you match 70 to 75%, go for it anyway.
Right.
Okay. No matter how many people have applied, because one of the things we're finding is that those large numbers are often just AI generated or generic resumes. It's kind of a spray and pray approach. We automatically discount those. It's inflating the numbers. It's making it harder for us. But by the same token, when you are targeting that resume, when you're really making it clear why you fit, whether it's an email, whether it's a resume, whether it's a cold call, whatever it is, you're making it easy for what I call the dummy on my side of the desk or the screen to really want to talk with you. Laura, you've had your hand up for a while.
this is just an answer to Sherry's question. Interviews, the only interview that I've had to date is because a close friend of mine, not even professional friend, but a close personal childhood friend of mine, put me in touch with somebody in the company that had a position that I was interested in applying for. And that person let the hiring manager know that I was applying and put me and sent me a referral link. Otherwise, I would have not had that one interview. It didn't go anywhere after that interview, but at least I had an interview. But honestly, like I'm sitting at the intersection of 3 sectors that have been hit pretty hard in the last 5 months. And so it is hard for the courts for there to be at least 1,000 applicants for every position I'm applying for. So it is all about like finding somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody who's going to send you a referral link. And even then you're not
There's no
guaranteed
guarantee.
that you're going to get an interview, but I feel like it's a better use of my time to do that than to send out hundreds of emails that are tailored to specific organizations. I've been much more deliberate about which organizations and trying to figure out who I know, who might know someone else, who might know someone else, and having those introductory conversations, which may, in most cases, nobody has positions open right now because everybody's reeling from the mass layoffs. But they're, they say they're keeping me in mind. They're probably keeping hundreds of people in mind, but it's better to be in someone's mind, even if it's a small dot, than not at all.
Agreed. Okay. So yes, use those networks. One of the things we have found is if you can have a referral, here's where it really works best. Yes, if somebody knows you in your work and really can say, this is the great person, let's send you in, that's fantastic. If you have those second and third level connections and you've made those comments and people can see the kinds of things that you're doing on LinkedIn and you're connected and you're making yourself that expert, that's a good thing. Anytime you have that employee referral, even if they don't know you, even if they can't walk your resume down the hall and say, this is the greatest thing since sliced bread, you really need to hire this person. Having that employee referral either in your cover letter or in a follow-up, if nothing else, triggers HR to say, I need to take another look. And as a courtesy, if nothing else, we find that most companies are willing to do at least that initial phone screen, that initial conversation, if you have that referral. After that, it's up to you. Now, that doesn't always happen, but it does seem to on occasion. Okay, we've got a couple of other people who've had their hands up for a while. Carrie, okay. And go ahead.
I could be really quick. So I did have an interview this week. I didn't move forward, but it was still good experience. And I asked ChatGPT, I loaded up the job posting, I loaded up my resume and asked it to act as the recruiter and what questions would it ask me about the position. And after having the interview, she literally asked 3/4 of those questions. So it didn't necessarily mean I moved ahead, but it helped. So that's like a really good use of, I use ChatGPT. So just wanted to throw that out there for someone that gets nervous when interviewing.
Yeah, I understand. Great idea. Lori.
Okay, so I've been in and out looking for jobs, I'll just say since COVID, long haul unemployment, and I need money in the bank. And Lori is a talker. So sitting behind the Zoom gloom, as was starting to call it, it wasn't me. So I do a lot of walking. I'm in a big city of Chicago. There's a lot of competition. So I meet people a lot of times when I'm out and about. And I met somebody 4 years ago during COVID. I'm chatting with him the other, 2 weeks ago, and different job, different pivot, but now I'm in hospitality and it's a part-time job, but I'm meeting other people. I do a lot of volunteering. I was at an event last night. It's all a bunch of Chicago innovation, a lot of CEOs, a lot of bigwigs. I'm showing my face. I'm out there in the community, and I'm going to get my next job by being my person out there, because behind the computer, I'm not doing it. I'm not getting a job. There's too much competition and all this paper shuffling and all this other stuff and all this AI, and everybody's got to be a whippersnapper, yappa, yappa, yappa. I am a people talker, and people recognize me. She's like, I know you from somewhere. I said, yeah, I used to work for the realtors, 4.4 million members. I know you from meeting planning. I know you from this. I'm shaking hands. I'm doing it. So I'm not going to sit still behind a computer. I know eventually I might be behind a computer again, but maybe not. So you have to like take your lot in life and go with the flow. That's my piece, and I'm sticking to it.
You talk easily to people, right? No problem meeting
Yes.
folks and starting conversations. I get that impression.
Yes, I have no fear about doing anything and everything, from scrubbing tables, not toilets, but tables, to, whatever it takes to get a job and put money in the bank.
Yep. And we have to do that. Sherry. Unmute, Sherry.
Well, I had two things. I know I only remember one.
That's okay.
I would like to, I mean, Ollie, if he is still on here, I see his picture. If he is still on here, he said all he said was he networked his way in. But I want to know, what steps did you take? What did you do to network your way in?
Actually, they found LinkedIn. They find me on LinkedIn. And
a recruiter found you?
Recruiter because I'm active on LinkedIn. I do posting, I do likes, I comment. So LinkedIn and other interviews I had in LinkedIn. One other thing also I do, if I see a job, I apply through that, and then I look at the company and see who might be a potential hiring manager or somebody that might just job report or be close to that person. And then I go use the LinkedIn, directly send them a message. Sometimes works, sometimes not, but at least you get your word. One other thing also, I don't know I mentioned it or not, there is a trick I learned in LinkedIn. You say, let's say you're looking for a product management job. You say hiring product managers, and then you post, and you get those that the actual people who posted the job, so you can directly access them. And again, one thing we learned, there is no right or wrong way. You have to try everything. You have to try everything. I had luck with cold resume sending, cold calls. I had luck by they find me on LinkedIn, all the above. So
okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
A lot of these things, the idea is to keep trying, and we're going to continue to share some of these things. And these helps. If this is something that's Sherry, you're on both. Can you mute yourself, please?
One thing I find very useful is be specific. Even if you ask for somebody's referral in a company, don't just say, I'm looking for a job in product management. No. Be very specific. If they have a job opening, find the job number ID. I mean, that is specific, because people are busy, don't remember you, but the more specific you get, the more helping them to help you. So being specific is very, very important.
And that's a really good phrase. You have to help them help you. So the more information you can give them about how you can help them, it's not about you, it truly is about them, what you can bring to them, what problems you can help them solve. And the idea of being active on LinkedIn, especially with not only the industry that you're interested in, the kinds of jobs you're interested in, but the people from those companies that you're interested in, will make you stand out so much more than just sending in your information. It has to go both ways. Apply and reach out at the same time. Don't wait and do just one or the other. You have to go both ways. Anything else for Sherry on this issue? Okay. Okay, now I have a question for all of you. Was this kind of a format, this kind of a discussion useful? Is it something we should do again? If it's something we should do again, would you please put a Y in the chat? If it's something that weren't really interested in, just put an N. I'm just going to go back and take a look and see. Perfect. Okay. Yes, we should. Trip, can I pick on you for a moment? You can just do it in the chat in a private message, but would you tell me why you think this wasn't useful and what we can do instead?
Yeah, I was actually just about to throw in the chat, but easier to talk. I think it would be better to hear from people who are having a higher success rate. Because if I say what I'm doing that I think is working, but I'm getting less than a 1% success rate, it's not necessarily the best responses. So I'm in another networking group. I know you say don't spray and pray. One of the guys there says he sprays and prays and gets 5% response rate on his interviews. So there's something he's doing better than what I'm doing. And I think hearing from people who are landing jobs, hearing from people who are having a high response rate will help us learn from those who are succeeding and not just have a feedback loop of us all saying the things we're doing, but may or may not be the most appropriate or most successful. So that's why I was saying no on this, just in that I think it'd be more targeted, could add more value.
And I think that's great. And yes, that's what we're trying to do, is make sure that we are getting some of that information from people who are here. But it's also that sometimes you're trying something and you haven't landed yet, but it's getting you some success or you're getting some feedback from it as well. So hearing what works for somebody might work for you, it might not. Sandra.
Absolutely. I need to drop. I apologize. Thank you.
Oh, no, please.
Actually, this was very valuable, Trip, that you raised this question, because there's a lot more that goes behind what a person is doing that ensures their success. So comparatively with the person that you're speaking of the spray and pray, what does their resume look like? Is it keyword rich? Is it ATS compliant? What does their LinkedIn profile look like? Is it keyword rich? What about their headline? What about their about section? There are so many different nuances that have to be adjusted and established to be able to ensure a greater level of success. So one overall technique may work for some people, but what's behind the scenes of that? Mm-hmm. What do their collateral materials and activities present to a potential employer? So just sort of coming up with some technique, you have to ask, what else? What else? What else are they doing?
One of the things that I liked about this kind of a format, great ideas, by the way, Sandra, is the fact that we can continue to ask those questions of the people who are raising the ideas. It's that idea of being able to share and get that additional feedback to me that really is very useful. Bo.
So I've got one last minute tip before everybody jumps off, just to try and be of help to all of you. It's not what you asked for, but hopefully it's still help. So Chicago Tribune Papers has they have an excellent job columnist, and his name is Marco Biscaglia. So every Sunday in the Chicago Tribune and also in other papers, I would bet, such as the Orlando Sentinel, the Norfolk Virginia Pilot, the Sun Sentinel in Florida, the Hartford Courant, some papers in Pennsylvania, some in Virginia. Marco does a really good job in job publishing that helps us. So I will tell you that the Sunday Tribune and other big papers are actually still a place that you should look for job search, particularly if you're in IT or healthcare. That may surprise you, because I know that sounds old-fashioned, but you want to be thorough. And recently, in Marco's most recent column, he talked about, he'll address things like Linda and I've worked on before about, tell me about a weakness that you have, right? Okay, so real life stuff. And Marco, in that weakness, somebody said, I recognize I'm not good at public speaking, and I've learned in my career that this is going to hold me back. And so I reached out to Toastmasters, and Toastmasters has turned things around for me in presentations. And so I'm promoting Toastmasters to you all, okay, because 4 different people in my job search over time were like, Bo, you need to check out Toastmasters. And finally, I listened to them. And so I've been active now in Toastmasters more than 4 years. I recommend it to you. It helps you be prepared for these off-the-wall questions that come up, improv. So just trying to help. So there's a tip to help.
No, absolutely. Thank you, Bo. So you've heard a lot of great tips today, and what I love is the fact that we're sharing with each other. I'm going to turn off the recording in just a moment, but I want to remind those of you who are still here to remember to copy the chat. Okay, there's 2 different ways that you can do it. You can go up to the top of the screen where it says Lunch and Learn, the 3 dots, click on that, and it'll say Save Chat. Or you can do it the old-fashioned way, cursor all the way up and down, Control-C, copy, and put it into a document of your own. I will add it into our private group this afternoon or this evening. One of the things that I really want, and I'm going to put this in our private group as well, since this seems to be a useful format, I'd like to do it more often. In the private group, I'm going to ask how often you want it to be done, whether you want it once a quarter, once a month, once every other month, but I'd like to be able to do it with a focus, I think, on one particular issue at a time, unless we want to make it broad enough to say, as we did today, what's one challenge that you have, and let's all contribute. So I'm going to be asking for your feedback in that as well. I want to remind you all that next week, Sandra Rogosa is going to be our speaker talking about using AI to help you uncover some of those hidden job resources. And I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a great opportunity. While I'm talking about it, one more thing in terms of AI that you all should know. There was an article written this week or published in the Chicago Sun-Times and a number of other newspapers about the books you should be reading this summer. It was generated by AI. Nobody fact-checked it. And more than 3/4 of the books don't really exist. Be careful before you use something that you're putting out there. Sometimes it's actually apologized for it when they were called out. But the idea is AI, unless you're writing the right prompts, can hallucinate. And Sandra's going to tell us more about that next week. It comes up with ideas. They may be right, they may be wrong, they may be real, they may not. You have to really double check to make sure, which is another reason for not ever submitting anything to anyone. Whether you're writing a post on LinkedIn, making a comment, sending in a resume or a cover letter, or one of these cold call emails, don't let AI write it for you. Double check it, fact check it, make sure that it works. Bo, you're next.
So it's actually an issue than you said, Linda, because it's originated from King Features, which is an international syndicate. So not only did it appear this times, but odds are it appeared elsewhere as well.
It did. And the only reason I saw it coming out from Sun-Times in terms of one of my news feeds, but they absolutely said that it was in a variety. They pulled it directly from an AP News line of their own. So we have to be careful regardless of where it is. Yes, Sherry.
Okay, so you're saying be sure you don't use AI. So
no, I'm saying don't use AI. Use AI as a starting point. Don't use AI to write it.
Right. But the thing is, who's checking to see if it's, how are they checking to see if it's written by AI? Is AI checking to see if it's written by AI?
So it depends. In many cases, we can tell just by the way things are written. The language that's used isn't real language. Doesn't sound like a real person writing it. We can tell. In terms of the applications and the resumes and so on, in many cases, some of these ATS systems are including, the same way the colleges are including, an AI checker. Okay, there are certain hints within something that's been written by an AI that can be detected. It's called an AI detector.
Okay, if I were to send you 2 letters that I wrote, can you tell me if you can detect which one was written by AI?
I don't know the answer to that, Sherry, unless I read them, but that's all fine, okay?
Okay.
But the idea is if it doesn't sound like Sherry, and I know Sherry, I'm going to say it's written by somebody else.
But
And you don't want that.
I write better than I speak because I have time to think about what I'm going to say when I'm writing.
And absolutely true. But remember, the job you're looking for is that connection, that communication kind of job when you're talking about social media. I want to be able to see you in what you're writing. You're not going to be writing on the job and just submitting something that's written by AI. I don't need Sherry to do that. I need your voice. I need your mind. I need your ideas. Okay. All right. So in the chat, if you haven't already done so.
I'm sorry, Linda. One follow-up question to that. I'm so sorry.
I'm sorry,
know
who's this?
A lot of like AI or Grammarly wants to go from 2 spaces after a period to 1. I know that's changed for all my kids. I know I'm old. I have the gray hair to prove it. I'm fine with that. It's the Oxford comma conversation. Do we have to adapt to all that stuff and change 40, 50 years of what we learned?
I will tell you, Charles, that I don't. I'm still using the 2 periods. Microsoft in Word is still using the 2 periods as a way of saying, I'm going to put a period, 2 spaces, and it automatically puts a period in for you. So until they're changing some of those things, I'm not worried about it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. And by the way, if you're putting in those 2 periods, because AI doesn't, it's another way of me telling you that it may be real. Not that I'm really looking, but it is another tell. Okay. All right. So come up with your ideas, your suggestions. I'm going to turn off the recordings now. And we'll go from there. I'm looking forward to the next conversations.